and welcome back to Replay, the show where games are art. So I've come to Doma Castle, the place where we first met Cyan, and I believe somewhere in one of the past episodes, somebody told us that weird things happened if you spend the night here. That's what we're here to investigate. And the first thing that becomes really clear is this castle is haunted as fuck. Maybe that's not immediately obvious to you, but look, right there. There's a fire in the fireplace. There are no living people here. Everyone here was killed. So why are there fires in the fireplace? Ghosts, obviously. Now, as we talked about back in the episodes that dealt with this in the Phantom Train, ghosts are memories, and that's what we're dealing with here. This is a place of intense memory for Cyan. This is where his family were killed. This is where his whole world was destroyed by the Empire. And his life essentially ended. That's what's haunting this place. It's not just that a lot of people died here. It's that those people are remembered, and Cyan is the one who remembers them. That's why the music here is Cyan's theme. Because this is his place, but also because he is haunting it. His memories are the memories that make this place haunted. So that's really what we're here to deal with, is Cyan's memories. And we're going to do that through a dream. As soon as I remember how to get to the place where that happens. Okay, there's nothing else here. Cool. Nothing over here. You know, that's something FF4 did really well. There's not a lot of things that FF6 did better than FF4. I mean, there's other way around. There's not a lot of things that FF4 did better than FF6. But one of them is hiding stuff. There's all sorts of hidden passages and treasures in FF4, and FF6 just doesn't have as much of them. So, here we go. We're gonna be entering Cyan's dream. He's refusing to wake up. He's unable to wake up. He's suspended in the dream state, which, when you think about it, dreams are between consciousness and unconsciousness. They're liminal. You know, again, bringing us back to what we were talking about in regards to Doma and Cyan and the Phantom Train. They're a liminal space. In fact, I would suggest that dreams are the liminal space. That they are the original liminal space. It's in dreams that things shift and change form, and things from the wrong contexts or other contexts interpose themselves. Oh my god, are you kidding me? That is pure evil. Wow, those are really evil spells for people to have in an area where you start out with only one character. As you can see, roulette randomly kills someone. Magic Toot, if I remember correctly, causes random status ailments. Either of those can be an instant end to the battle if you've only got one person. Okay, Memento Ring is good though. Ribbon is probably better. I'm more likely to get an ugly status element here than be killed by roulette, because I think it only gets used here in relatively... Oh, good. And I don't have to worry about it anymore. So, we've all been separated when we enter his dream. And I think that makes sense, because everyone dreams alone. We go into dreams alone, and in them, we encounter things that don't make sense. We encounter other realms, things forgotten, things that are impossible. We encounter memories of people we once knew. Ghosts, if you will. You know, it's in dreams that we can speak to loved ones that we've lost. And so that's, I think, the original liminal space. You know, I think dreams are where we first encountered the in-between state that is liminality. It would explain, too, why it's so ubiquitous a concept across so many cultures. I'm not going to say universal, because I don't know everything about every culture in the world, so I can't say X is universal, and I'm generally leery of anybody who does. But it is really freaking common. And I think if it's something that actually is a universal experience, you know, a biological certitude, then that makes sense. Gee, I wish I were wearing the memento ring right now. Memento ring, if you didn't know, gives immunity to death. Which would have been really useful, because I just game overed. That's not a screen we've seen a lot. Good thing I saved. Yeah. Anyway. So, we're in this space. We're in this in-between realm. And searching for each other and for Cyan. Because while liminality is something often experienced alone, while dreams are something we necessarily do alone, mourning is something that's best not done alone. Seeking out others when we are in mourning is important. It's necessary. Heck, even the Dream Stooges know better than to try to tackle this alone. Yeah, I'm not gonna deal with the fights here, at least until I get Terra back. Because these enemy groups are nasty. Critics and Pandoras. I'm guessing the Pandoras are the ones carrying the boxes. And I've already talked about Pandora's box and the evils it contains, and why hope is one of them. Pandora's an interesting creature, though. Because it looks to me like a woman riding this strange green creature. And it's a woman... It reminds me of the woman that Cyan ran into. The one that's probably some variant of sex worker. Or at the very least was hitting on him. In... I think it was Nicaea. Towards the end of the adventures of Cyan and Sabin. Because... like, here we have a woman who is relatively scantily clad. Maybe a acrobat of some type, or performer along that vein. Maybe a dancer. Maybe that's supposed to be some kind of lingerie. It's a little hard to tell with 16-bit graphics. But she's riding around on a green monster with her legs spread, leaning back a little bit. It's kind of a suggestive pose. And she's called a critic. I think this could well be Cyan's guilt about any time he has ever looked at another woman. Because, of course, as presumably a sexual being, given that he has a child, it's not 100% guaranteed, but we can say probably. He's, I guarantee, occasionally noticed women that aren't his wife, assuming he has any contact with them at all. And he definitely seems like the type of person who would have a lot of guilt about that. Especially now that his wife is dead. So, there's, I think, a good chance that the critics in his brain are that. As to why there's dinosaurs in his brain, God alone knows. The Barbies are another piece of evidence that there's some psychosexual stuff going on here. We're kinda in essentially his id, in Freudian terms. We're seeing, Barbie may very well be his mental image of that woman who hit on him. And so the fact that she attacks with the critic is meaningful, I think. As is the fact that critic also attacks with Pandora's, because, hey, what's the original let's blame women for shit story? It's Pandora or Eve, and those are essentially the same story. But as to why there's dinosaurs and weird squirmy parasite things, your guess is as good as mine. Probably just because dinosaurs are cool. And also a little bit weird. And those parasite things are definitely weird. Parasite things certainly fit well with this kind of back. And now we're up against the 3 Dream Stooges. I forget what these are in the original Japanese. It's definitely not the 3 Stooges. But fairly clearly, they're us. There's, 3 of them working together, just as there are 3 of us working together. It's not a one-on-one kind of thing, because it can't be, because the game doesn't know which 3 people I'm going to bring here. It's also a reference to a number of boss fights in past games, in particular the Magus sisters of Final Fantasy IV, who had a similar gimmick of 3 enemies who worked together, buffing each other, casting defensive and offensive spells, specializing in slightly different ways. It's a nice break from the usual kind of 3-on-1 boss battle. It gives a bit of variety. If I remember correctly, they also have different weaknesses, so I'm going to cast some group spells to figure out what those are. Yeah, okay, so they definitely do. Like, the back one was much more affected by fire than the others. And the front one is healed by, looks like both bolt and fire? That's odd. Maybe he's healed by all of them. Oh yeah, and the triple tech. Again, that's something the Magus sisters had. I think there were some bosses in FF5 that had some elements of this. Definitely the multiple similar bosses who have different weaknesses is something that FF5 did a lot. Because FF5, pretty much every boss fight was a puzzle. Very few of the boss battles were wail on the enemies until they die. That's a thing that happened. So, yeah, I'm just gonna hit the back guy with fire, and then figure out what to do from there. Seeing as the front two appear to be healed by everything and have reflect, I'm not sure there's much I can do to them magically. But yeah, I think the Three Dream Stooges may be us in more ways than one. I think there's also a part of Cyan who has guilt about leaving, setting off on this quest. And the Dream Stooges could well be, you know, a manifestation of this desire to just stay in Doma, stay with his memories, give up on the world. And in that sense, they're an opposite. Oh, there we go. Ice. It was ice. Of course, now I'm going to get this reflected. Oh, wait, no, it was a cure spell. Oh, you bastard. I hate you forever. Die soon, please. I am not liking that you are not dying. Why did I cast Fire 2? Don't I have Fire 3? Oh well. Oh my god, you are the worst. Well, that's good at least. Oh, he's gonna be healed by it. Oh, no. I have totally lost track of what the front guy's strengths and weaknesses are. The important thing is that he just cast Reflect on himself, so I'm gonna have to kill him the old-fashioned way. Yeah, I think they're a manifestation of his desire to stay, where we are representative of his desire to, you know, continue working with us to save the world. And we just beat them. This being a JRPG, we did so by hitting them with magical spells and swords. And spears. And now we transition to, you know, another part of Cyan's mindscape, the Phantom Train, which is unsurprising if, you know, this is all tied up with his mourning for his family. The Phantom Train is where the dead go. It's the last place he saw them. It's the bridge, the land of the dead and the land of the living. It just makes sense that we would pass through here. It's also a huge part of his memories. And that's what this next little stretch is going to be, is passing through all of his memories. And they're a bit jumbled together. Like, here we have enemies that we fought on the Imperial Continent showing up in the Phantom Train. I don't think they have any significance other than that his memories are a bit jumbled. Oh, sweet. Sure, why not? And here we have literally one of those memories from when he was being chased by the ghosts. Though, note, in this version, he's alone. Now here we have an interesting enemy, the Samurai. I think, again, most of the enemies here are heavily symbolic. And in the case of the samurai, I think this is Cyan's honor, his combat ability, his role in the world. He was a samurai. He isn't anymore. Now that his lord is dead, he is no longer a samurai, he is a ronin. And that's a very different kind of role. Ronin were generally seen as being, honorless bandits. They were treated as heroes in some... Oh, that was timered? What the fuck? Ultima. Alright, if that's going to be timered, I'm not going to have random encounters. So yeah, so again, this is a manifestation of guilt. This is failure. He was a samurai. He isn't anymore. So here on the Train of the Dead, we find his samurai self. Oh, I vaguely remember this. I have to put something in the chest, but I don't think I have the something yet. I believe that's a clue to the next room. Yeah. Oh, there we go. Now, it's noticeable that there's all these very mechanical puzzles here. Because if you'll remember, Cyan, not a fan of mechanical things. The train, of course, itself is a mechanical construct. And here we have to do all of these puzzles that, given what we know about him, would probably be very difficult for Cyan. Because he's not just not good with machinery, he's intimidated by it. He freezes up in the face of it. So it populates his nightmare. It becomes an obstacle in this nightmare that we're chasing him through. Much as the self he has lost that he can never regain, the samurai, is an obstacle we have to get, we have to fight our way past. Not to mention, it's dead. I remember this puzzle being slightly obnoxious? No, I think that was wrong. I want the treasure. As for the thing with bubbles all over its back, I don't even know. Don't act. So after spending way too long with that stupid 3-switch puzzle, made it to the chests, which is pretty simple, and a save point. Yay! And I'm going to assume stopping the train is the same as before. Yep. So now we pass from the machines being an obstacle to the machines being us. Interestingly, we're in a very different environment. Than before. It's... The only thing I can think of is that this is an experience Cyan had when he was hanging out in the mountains around Zozo. Those look like they might be Cult of Kefka members, so it's possible this is something that happened after the end of the World of Balance, during that year. It might explain why he had that book of machinery, if he found some kind of like Imperial Magitech holdout, some survivors, and killed them and took over their hideout. It's plausible, at least. It would explain this environment and the proliferation of technology. But I think a lot of it is just generally his discomfort with technology. It's apparently a very deep-seated fear. Probably has something to do with the Empire, really. Technology represents... technology in the world of balance is very closely associated with the Empire or with Figaro. And for Cyan, it would have been mostly the Empire, especially Magitech. The fact that we take on that technology in this sequence is interesting. And how to read it really depends on whether we are Cyan in this dream sequence, or we are chasing Cyan. If we are him, then I think it's probably the fact that he's been learning magic, because that would also be something associated with magic tech by somebody who had been fighting the Empire. So he may feel that he's kind of taken on, by learning magic and learning to use magic, he's been taking on these unsavory aspects of the Empire. The other possibility is that we're chasing him, and then it's a little more straightforwardly, he's afraid of this stuff. From a game mechanical perspective, this is a part of the game where it's very easy to get lost and get turned around. There's this loopy thing going on. The layout doesn't completely make sense as you move from room to room, a little bit like the Phantom Forest in the Balance, which again makes sense for a dream space. So mechanically, giving us Magitech gives every single member of the party access to a free healing spell that can be used in combat. Which is a useful thing to have in a section of the game where it's easy to get very, very lost, even though it's a relatively small number of rooms. Here we go. Let's follow the Cyan. And we're too heavy for the bridge to fall. Bringing us to a dream version of Doma. And Cyan's family. Now, the question does kind of arise, are these the ghosts or spirits or whatever of his wife and son? Or are they his memories of them? And the answer, of course, is yes. Because as we've established, that's what ghosts are. There are memories of the people who we've lost. Now, here we get into some really interesting stuff with Rexol that I'll probably talk about more once we get into the actual fight with Rexol. But what we're being presented with right now is that Rexol is the souls of all these people killed in meaningless wars. Well, the thing is, though, we're inside Cyan's soul. So, is Rexol this wandering demon that is trying to possess him? Or is Rexol, again, like so many of the enemies we've encountered here, Cyan's own guilt? Is Rexol the people he has killed in meaningless wars? Because remember, he was a soldier of Doma. How many Imperial soldiers did he kill? How many wars did Doma fight before that? We don't know, but we know that Cyan was very good at killing people. He's probably got some feelings about that. Now, if I remember correctly, wandering around this place, while there are enemies, and that's a little annoying, there's also a lot of, like, little bits of Cyan's memory from before we met him, because everything we've seen so far is assembled of memories of after we met him, after his family's death, which makes sense in terms of trauma. Now, this was a very traumatic experience for him. Everyone he knew died. That's going to be traumatic for him. And the thing about trauma is it has a tendency to fragment identity. It's very common for trauma sufferers to think of themselves as different people before and after the trauma. So it makes sense that his memories would be dominated by after the trauma, while all these monsters crawling around in his subconscious are mostly rooted in things that predate the trauma, or in the relationship between before and after the trauma. It's only when we get to the deepest stuff that we see the memories from before, because those are the ones that are now hardest to access. In part just because he has to go back through the trauma. He has to think about losing his family every time he thinks about his family. He has to think about losing whatever friends he had in Doma, the king that he devoted himself to. Whenever he thinks about those people, he has to think about losing them. That's not necessarily something he really wants to think about. Alright, so the throne room is where the boss is. So I don't want to do that. And here we have one of those memories. He never told his wife he loved her. No, he did. But he had a hard time saying it. And, you know, that's an interesting insight into him. There's a lot we could say about that in terms of, you know, toxic masculinity, in terms of, you know, this idea that open expression of emotion is unmasculine, dishonorable, somehow wrong. That's not a door, apparently. I could have sworn it was. But I think more important than that is I think that that is actually a good memory of his. It was difficult for him to say, but he said it. His son was a bit silly. There's a bit of humor there. That's a really nice memory. And that's what's in this castle. What's guarded in here are the good memories. That's what he's sealed away to protect them. And all the things he's afraid of and feels bad about, all the terrible experiences or what we had to get through to get here. Those are all what he wears on the outside. On the inside, he's kept all the good experiences, sealed them away, but that means that he can't get at them either. I think Cyan has been very quietly miserable for this entire game, which is understandable given what he lost. I think a lot of our characters are dealing with some serious stuff emotionally that they haven't really had a chance to address. Here, through this sequence, Cyan does. You know, here we have him teaching his son to fence. You know, this bonding experience. But we also see that him praising his son was a pretty rare thing. You know, that's probably... You know, that's probably something he doesn't feel great about as well. But at the same time, that's probably a really good memory. And here's another memory of a bonding experience with his son, a classic one. Fishing. And it's cute. It's not particularly profound, it's just cute. That's, I think, what the best memories of the people we've lost are. Those little moments that, in the grand scheme of things, don't mean a lot, but nonetheless we hold on to. Alright. Boss time. Now, there's 2 ways to fight Rexol. You can... The first way... Alright, so at the start of the fight, he possesses someone. Basically what this means is he doesn't control that member of the party. He just cannot be targeted, has essentially left the battle, and will not come back until that individual is dead. So the 2 ways to fight him. His soul savers are what allow him to continue to exist while possessing us. They cannot be killed. If you kill one, it immediately comes back. However, the spell X-Zone can destroy both of them, and if you do that while he's possessing someone, that's it. You win. The more interesting way to fight him, which is also longer and more difficult, and I've never done it before, but I'm going to do it this time, because I don't think anybody in my party knows X-Zone, is to, one by one, kill the members of your own party so that he has to re-emerge, and then you can attack him once he's forced out of you. And I can already see a problem here. Jump can't target yourself. Anyway, the reason this is more interesting is because this whole time we've been descending into the abyss. We've descended into, the darkness within Cyan. And that is... there is an occult practice of the descent into the abyss. It is one of the final stages in certain forms of mysticism before one attains enlightenment, is to descend into the darkness. And in particular, the point of that descent into the abyss is to attain detachment, to detach yourself from yourself, to let go of selfhood. In Crowley's system of occultism, you fight the shapeshifting demon Coronzon in the abyss, and the only way to defeat him is to surrender your ego, is to surrender your sense of self and allow yourself to be destroyed. Only by allowing yourself to be destroyed can you overcome this being that is really your own attachment to the world and your own sense of self. That is here what Rexol is. It's the karmic weight on Cyan. It's his guilt about the wrongs he's committed, his anger and sorrow at the things which have happened to him. And to attain enlightenment, he has to let go of that. He has to free himself from it. And to do that, he has to let go of selfhood. Only then can he understand that this idea that he's become separated from others, which is the source of his sorrow. This idea that, you know, his family is lost to him. Once he's, truly surrenders all sense of self, he can, attain oneness with everything, including the family members he believes are gone. The idea here, is that life and death themselves are illusions, that the enlightened person can overcome that barrier and recognize that the bonds between them and others are, within them or within their soul. There's a lot of different, ways to read it. I think the usual mystical idea is just that all separations are illusions. There is only oneness, and enlightenment allows you to transcend this notion of separation and allows you to be one with everything. The enemies that Cyan has slain, the family that he has lost, the king that he has lost, those are all... Fire 3 just heal him? Oh no, it's the... Is it the Terramorph thing? So there's... I guess you could describe it as a bug in the game. Well, there's a lot of them actually, but one of them is that when Terra morphs, it's relatively easy to get her magic stat to overflow the variable, and with the result that she, with higher powered spells, she ends up doing negative damage because the damage is overflowing the variable and wrapping around. I think I may have hit that limit. Oops. So yeah, we have to, in order to defeat Rexel, we have to surrender ourselves. We have to willingly lose in order to win. And the result is a really unique and interesting battle. It's a little unfortunate, actually, that there's an other way to do it, because this is a cool concept, and it's actually, like, one of the more different battles I've had in this game. Most of the boss battles in this game are pretty samey. I may or may not haste myself, and then I hit the enemies with attack spells, and keep healing myself, and try to do more damage to them. In terms of percentage of hit points, I try to wipe theirs out before they wipe out mine. It's not hugely varied. There are variations and stuff like, oh, enemies have weaknesses and that kind of thing. Generally speaking, it's pretty straightforward. This is different. And it's different in a way that makes thematic sense, which is something that wasn't always the case with FF5's puzzle bosses. Sometimes they were kind of out of nowhere. Why is this particular puzzle happening in this particular dungeon? There wasn't a lot of connection there. Here, there's, a really solid reading, I think, to be had with, this idea of erasing the self to attain something higher. Now, obviously, there's a little bit of a weakness there, which is that Cyan isn't doing it, we are. Yet it's Cyan who's going to become the enlightened warrior from this. But, if separations are illusions, then why can't we do the work for Cyan's enlightenment if we are Cyan because separations are illusions? And frankly, we are Cyan because there's a whole bunch of different characters, but they're all the same player, me. So I'm doing the work to attain enlightenment, and I'm getting enlightenment. What does enlightenment consist of? Well, a couple of things. We've got Cyan back, first of all. And it seems that he was fighting his own battle while we were fighting ours. But, you know, this is the result. Is one final conversation with his loved ones. And there it is. He's been punishing himself too harshly for what happened. He's been carrying too much guilt. He's got too much honor. And his family are letting him go. Or his idea of his family. Again, at this point, there's no difference. And so that's the first thing that comes with enlightenment. Separation is illusion. They will always be together because they were never separate. This being a JRPG, enlightenment also comes with a sword. If I remember correctly, this is the Muramasa? Also note, there's a magicite on the throne. That's another thing enlightenment comes with. But before that, waiting for the announcement, There it is. That's a pretty impressive trick. And there it is. Cyan now has 8 levels of sword tech. And the aura, which is, if I remember correctly, Holy Elemental? Don't quote me on that. And may or may not be the Masamune in the Japanese. I don't remember. But there's also Alexander, the Esper that teaches holy. So again, it's this idea of enlightenment, holiness. You've achieved something greater, something above and beyond the normal realm, something higher and purer. That's what passing through the abyss gets you. Because that descent to the darkness is where you find the light. That's all for this time. And I'll see you all next time. Bye.